know, Chelsea, what do you...
Hey, you're running the show here. Well, I don't know the questions asked because I don't know the history. So
Stop
Give me the recipe for the chicken soup.
Give me your chicken soup recipe.
Stop doing your knuckles.
I know. And
You drive my mother nuts.
is it on?
yeah,
Oh,
it's okay. We're not on any sort of timeline. You guys are fine.
So what's your first memory you have in general?
That's a really broad question.
I know. Well, I want to know. What's your first memory you have of where you where you used to live?
Well, when I was a child, a few years old, and I went with my mother to a town where my brother was learning to be a
Could you say their names too?
yeah,
Your mother.
my mother Elizabeth, and she took me to a town where my brother Tony was learning to be a tool and die maker, and I was 3 years old, and that's the first time I saw electricity. I said, when I came home, I said to my sister Marie, right here, you never believe it. They turned a switch on the wall and the light came up in the ceiling. And that was my first memory of, and also of the farm and the dogs and the animals. And then later on, you can cut into and say what the memory is.
Well, my first memory is
Don't look at me, look over there.
when she
Well, you
was
can look wherever you
born.
want.
Camera.
My father came and said, children, the stork brought a sister. My brother was on one side, I was on one side, and I still see the bed. Mother was laying in bed with my sister Christine, and my brother said, Father,
Joe.
Uncle Joe said, Father, open up the window. So he said, why should I open up the window? It's cold, it's October. He said, throw out. We are ready enough.
Got
We
enough
don't
already.
need another one.
So what were all your family members' names?
My family's, you meant all of them?
Of course. Mom, dad, brothers and sisters.
My father was Tony, my mother was Elizabeth. We had an older sister, Anna. Then we had a brother, John, Johann, and a brother, Tony, and a sister, Elizabeth, and a sister, Magdalena, and my brother, Joe, that she wanted to throw out of the window. And then I came. I was a twin. I had a brother. And he died after 2 months. His name was Carl. That's what my first son's name is, Carl. And then Chris came. And that, well, my name is Maria and Chris was the last one. Thank God. There were 8 already.
Well, after later on, when I heard that, and I said to my brother Joe, I says, Joe, I probably would have looked around and says, don't we have enough already? and because Joe, he said, there's families, they only have one, the stork, why didn't he go to their family? Well, we have so many, we don't need any more. And I used to tease him all the time. And we had some good times, and we had some tough times, and then when I was about, when did the war start, actually? When they
39.
attacked in Candia.
Well, that was in 43.
43, there was an attack of our town from the Yugoslav partisans. And they came into town, and they came and plundered, and came to different houses. Every house they went, they wanted to take things, and when every house had a gate in the front of their house, and when my father and my brothers, they were hiding in the back, so the partisans couldn't get them. So there was mostly the women and children in the house. So I heard the squeak on the gate, and I ran and hid behind the door in one of the bedrooms. And the partisan came in, and he said to my mother, you know, so she says, what do you want? So he asked if we had any guns or anything. She says, no, go look around, take what you want. So they went around, probably took something, because I was hiding, I didn't see what it was. And then he left, because my mother talked in Croatian to him. And so my mother was standing around, and all of a sudden another big guy comes walking in the door, and I was ready to hide again, and my mother held me tight. And he came in and he said, she says, what do you want? They were already here, and he took everything what you want. So he told her to put a candle in the front window. This way they have a signal that they already took care and checked all the houses and took what they want, so they don't waste time, because they want to. And so she did, and then she went across the street to my sister's house, and she left me alone. And I was so scared, and we had in the front room, we had 4 beds, and I went, and behind the door there was a bed, and I went under the bed, and I pulled a basket in front of me, and I stayed there for a couple of hours until later on, and then I finally came out. It got light, and I looked outside, and I was very scared. And then you can chime in and say.
I was across the street in my sister's house,
Sister Anna.
Sister Anna's house. We had 2 children, and a partisan came in, and my little niece was in the crib, and he said, oh, that baby looks so nice, and he took his bayonet out and said to my sister, I can cut your throat. She stood there, didn't say nothing, but he said, I'm not going to do it, because the baby needs a mother. And then the neighbor's house was burning, and we went out there to take the water out of the well to
Put the fire out.
put
Why
the
was it on fire?
well. Our house was not on fire, but it was so close, so we put the water under our house.
So it doesn't catch fire.
Why was it on fire?
Well, because they put the partisans, if they didn't get what they wanted, they threw matches and firebomb, you know, with like
Well,
a.
we had 300 houses in our town, and I think they burned down more than 100 houses that night.
What was the name of the place where you lived, and could you spell it for me?
Kundia, Krindij, Kundia. I'm gonna write it down for you.
What was